Hey, and we're live. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I want to say we do have a topic tonight, even though the chat is not listed as any, because last week putting a topic in the chat title did not help the situation any. So this week's topic is felonies and your loss of the Second Amendment rights, where you don't lose any others. So I want to do a quick introduction here. The way I see it on the screen, we got gun websites here.
Howdy. Thanks for the invite.
We've got Huck from Ghost Town Custom Knives.
Hey.
Luke, also known as One Bad Marine. Putting a topic in the chat title did not help the situation. And we got the chat flag in the background there, Luke. Second Amendment rights. I like hearing myself talk. It's okay.
I noticed.
I fixed it, sorry.
It's not a problem.
Cork, you sound like you're in a wind tunnel.
I sound like I'm in a wind tunnel? I don't know why.
Yeah, you've got like a buzzing or something going on, at least for me.
I had to turn my bandwidth down because he was roboting on my end, but I don't know, it might be my end.
That is weird. Let me see something. I've got plenty of bandwidth.
Oh, you're better now. Not hearing it now. Might have been somebody else. Everyone else muted.
Oh, okay. And then we got Nathan from Nathan's Armory.
Hey, everybody.
And of course myself. If I figured that one out. We should head this off pretty easily with: should all felonies end up leading to the loss of your Second Amendment right? Because we know that in some states you do get you do lose the right to vote if you're a felon, but in every state you do lose your right to own a firearm unless you petition the government to get it back, and that's tens of thousands of dollars in legal actions that normally, if you're coming out of prison as a felon, you do not have that money to spare unless you're rich, and then that way you just sit there and buy it anyway, so it doesn't matter if you're freaking rich already, because there are a lot of rich people that have the right to carry firearms or can easily get that right, whether you're in Hollywood or a politician. So what are your thoughts? And this is not a left to right or anything, it's just a jump in when you have something to say. Wow.
Oh, sorry about that. I was muted. So, I don't know. I guess I need to figure out if what I was thinking was going on is right in my state or not. Because our state recently passed a law that said that once you were through with your probation on a felony, that if you petition the court, which it didn't involve having to get a lawyer, you just fill out a form, they were to give you your firearms rights back. But does that mean you still have to petition federally? Because I didn't know that the federal government was using that felony to keep you in that position.
Well, from my understanding, you actually get your felony expunged from your record, so that when you do fill out the 4473, you can see, you can actually check no because it's off the record. Because right now, if you fill out that 4473 and you click no, you're committing another felony if you were committed
I mean, that sort of, there's some gray area there, because if it's only to stop you from getting a gun from a FFL, if your state's reestablished your rights and you buy a private party, which is not against the rules, you haven't lied on the form, and you can still purchase a firearm. So I don't know. I'm scratching.
Well, it's not a federal right to own or a federal right to not own a firearm. It's just that, like you say, the federal law says that whether or not you can purchase it from a licensed dealer. So it sounds like it might be a state level thing as to whether or not you're able to own a firearm after a felony, potentially. Problem is, I don't think any of us are felons.
Yeah, from what I understand, you're not even allowed to live in a house with firearms once you're a felon.
Well, I
For a
will
certain
say,
amount of time, or for like the rest of your life?
My buddy was 15 years into it before he joined the Army, so at least 15 years.
I'm going to say, G. Gordon Liddy gets around it that all his firearms are in his wife's name. And yes, they are in the house.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know this was Arizona, and I know my buddy was really into guns, so he would have been really happy to get them back. But yeah, his mom couldn't even have her duty weapon in the house. She's Air Force. Yeah, an AR or an M16 or whatever.
Right.
Would be an M4.
Well, you'd never have. Nobody takes their guns home anyway, so that would never be an issue.
I've seen her come home with her pistol belt on for sure. I've seen her,
Yeah, your personal duty pistol maybe, but not a select fire weapon. They get put
Really?
back in the armory.
I did not know
Dude,
that.
I'd be surprised if they got to take their pistols home. I would be surprised they didn't have to turn those things in at the armory. I mean, I don't know every job or anything, but it just seems like something that they wouldn't let them have just floating around out there.
Well, it's Air Force. They also write the rules with crayon, right?
Oh, I don't know.
I could see them taking their duty pistol home just because.
Is it possible she was a contractor?
Taking
I
it
have
in
no
and out
idea
of
what
the
she
armory.
did.
Yeah, she might have been a contractor.
She was Air Force career for sure.
Oh, well, if she was enlisted, then that means she wasn't working as a contractor, I meant. Like just contracted civilian employee to the Air Force or something. Anyway, I think that it's an interesting facet because when you look at the numbers, we've got the largest percent of our population incarcerated.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So I'm going to go a different tack. I didn't want to get too tied up in the logistics of it, but it was, I think, something I'm going to look into a little bit more on the legal side. For my personal view, unless it's a violent felony like a murder or an armed robbery, I think that once they've gotten past their time served and their probation, that it should be automatic that their rights are given back to them. How says you all?
I feel kind of different about that one. I feel if you're creating that much of a menace to society that you can't have a firearm forever, then you should be removed from society. Because you can't be trusted with a car either. But I don't believe
cars are not a right; they're a privilege.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You can't be trusted with kitchen knives. You can't be trusted with cars. You can't be trusted with ropes. If you're that much of a menace that you can't be trusted with a gun forever.
You should only ever have a spork.
I could sort of go along with it that once your burden to society has been adjudicated, they should be restored. But I don't know that we'd ever get that either.
Yeah.
Why do we gotta treat everybody like cookie cutter? Shouldn't that's why we have judges and trials and stuff, right?
That's what I was.
Somebody proved to be fine. They just happen to be white collar felon or whatever. Then fine. If they happen to be the kind of person that you don't want to trust with a gun, then that judge can make that ruling on that person, maybe.
Right. The way I look at it, say somebody that writes a bad check for $500 they shouldn't be the same. They shouldn't face the same loss of rights as somebody that went out and murdered 600 people.
Well, what if that check was for $500 to buy a gun?
Or to buy food for someone's family that they didn't get, and their family starved to death.
Oh, well, that's different. I'm saying.
I'm just arguing for argument's sake, but honestly, it's the logistics of it are so ridiculous that it's almost impossible to discuss. I mean,
check that link out on the side.
You're right. You'd have to just judge it by each individual case and each individual person, but that's a pretty rough job. I mean,
right. That's what I said. They're able to petition to get their gun rights back, and that's that link that you just put in here.
Right, but so I guess the real question is if your state gives you your gun rights back, is there any notification that has to go to the federal government for the 4472s to not be,
Right.
you're not be
No.
relying on it? Or,
And the reason I brought this up, I was actually watching PBS, and that's a great channel to watch every once in a while because they were talking about. I can't remember the name of the frickin' show, but this guy goes to different states and talks to people about the Constitution. This lady, she lost her rights because she committed a felony when she was 17. She came back. She has proven that she is an upstanding member of society. She's got a job. She's never committed another crime, anything like that, and she can't, through her own state, she can't get her rights back. One, because it's costing her so much money, and two, because they are refusing. I mean, that's not right. At least that's in my opinion. That is not right.
I agree that that's not right, and I think that's part of the reason that our state did the law they did, because there was a lot of judges that weren't allowing people to restore rights when they petitioned over things that the state in general did not believe they should be. They thought they should be able to get their rights restored, and the judges were just like, "Screw you! You're a criminal once. You're a criminal for life." So we passed a state law about having to restore their rights. Unless, I think the only thing that they can hold it back on is domestic violence, and I don't know why we give extra weighting to domestic violence, because if you slapped your wife and got convicted of that, you lose your firearms for life. I don't know.
Well, even if you don't slap your wife slaps you, but she's the one who calls cops, you're the one going to jail, and you're the one that then loses your rights, at least temporarily. It's a person that makes a phone call first is normally the one that doesn't get in trouble.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't been married, but it seems to me that if you're going to beat your own wife, then that says a lot about you.
Well, the problem is like, this is a honest to God story of a really good friend of mine. His wife was having mental issues. She whips out a knife and tries to stab him with it. He takes it from her, calls the police. When they get there, she said that he pulled the knife on her, and he had to fight his way out of proving that it wasn't him, and it would still show up as a domestic violence even though it wasn't convicted.
Yeah, they have to take someone home. I mean, or away from the house. I mean,
right.
That's
an oddball scenario. It doesn't always happen that way, but it really did happen to him.
90% of the time, the woman's the one that gets her side taken right off the bat. That's any cop will tell you that too.
Yeah, and here's the thing. At least this was news in Wisconsin, and I can't remember if I brought it up on a chat or not. I heard this on the radio back from Easter from visiting family. They were talking about as soon as you have issued a restraining order, you have 24 hours to turn in your firearms. Even as a temporary restraining order, you've got 24 hours, and if you don't turn your firearms in by 24 hours, you're then facing steeper charges. So that's screwed up too, because anybody can petition a judge without the person that's being accused in the courtroom to deny the fact. So almost anybody can get a temporary restraining order by lying to the judge or making stronger accusations than what really happened. And I know I was striking a big nerve with hunters here because an ex-wife, they recently got divorced. The ex-wife just wants to fuck with the husband more, decides, well, he's not going hunting this year, and decides and goes in there, and then it gets thrown out eventually. But that's screwy too.
If you parse through that thing that I just put up in the middle, it talks about the federal firearms privileges, and it depends on if the felony is a federal felony when was committed or a state felony. If it's a state felony, the feds aren't going to weigh in on it if it's adjudicated. If it's a federal felony, then you have to get a presidential pardon or go through another process to get your rights back.
I think federal, the only way you can get it is a presidential.
Yeah, on a federal felony. Read the center of that big box of text I just put up in there.
Oh, and I just want to comment on what DF2 put. He says cars are a right, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Cars, you can go out and buy a car, you just cannot drive it. It's not taking away your right to purchase a vehicle. You just don't have the right to drive it.
At least in our
You have
state,
the right to drive it if you own enough land to drive it around on.
Yeah, you can drive it on your own property, but you don't have it's a privilege to be able to drive, not a right on public roadways. That's how it's put together in our state anyways.
And in some states, even if you're driving a vehicle and you've had one too many, and you're driving on private property, you are still committing a crime of driving while intoxicated. Nathan, are you frozen or are you there?
That's the nanny state.
No, I'm sorry. I was making a funny Batman picture. Sorry.
Working on a meme.
Yeah,
I thought maybe you actually had the stroke for a change.
No. They've released the picture of Ben Affleck in the new Batman suit, and he's like looking down, like all sad and stuff. And they call it Sad Batman, and everyone's been making memes about it. So I made a meme that said Ben Affleck, the first Batman, where Bruce Wayne's parents killed themselves.
Oh.
I know it's mean.
Now, another question I have: what crimes do you think should automatically, and I know Huck kind of weighed in on this a little bit, automatically just remove your firearms rights?
I would say a serious violent crime that, like
Rape.
Well, I mean, like armed robbery,
Wait, what's wrong with rape?
murder with a firearm.
Damages someone for the rest of their life.
Well, yeah, you're right. Rape. I was just thinking where a firearm was used in an illegal manner. Like if a firearm was used in a crime and it's a violent crime, then automatic.
The question goes then, well, if you use a knife or a baseball bat, if you're, repatriated, are you gonna be more likely to use a firearm the next time? I don't know. Just a question.
I mean, then should you have all your rights to knives and bats be taken away too?
No,
That's a hard one to enforce, but yeah.
That's where I differ.
I'm pretty sure felons aren't allowed to have any kind of thing that could be a weapon, right? They can't just say guns.
A baseball bat, unless it's used in the commission of the crime, is not considered a weapon. So they could have a baseball bat.
A hammer, a crowbar, all can be used as weapons.
It's a really tough argument to frame because there's so many things that can be used as a weapon, and really highlights the fact that guns aren't weapons. People use them against other people, but in their own.
It's the people themselves that are the problem.
They're a tool.
That's why I think we should remove the people from society.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just all the people?
No, the ones that have proven that they're violent and untamable, or uncontrollable.
Unable to be.
You gotta admit, the society would be a lot safer if we just took all the kids and locked them up right away.
No, I'm just saying the ones that prove themselves to be. Whether you have to do it once or twice, whatever everybody decides.
Yeah. Do you think a pedophile deserves to be back on the streets?
Oh, sorry, instant execution in my eyes, but that's me.
That's a whole nother story, because I mean the ability to rehabilitate pedophiles, at least from what I've heard, is like 5% of them can actually back in society without the probability of reoffending.
Well, hold on now. I was speaking with Cork earlier, and I said, where there's a case where there's a guy who is, let's say, 20 years old, his girlfriend is 16, they're 4 years apart, breaking that 3-year rule. And
that's statutory rape. That's not
Yeah,
being a
okay,
pedophile.
okay,
And
so
that's not
okay, not
statutory
pedophile,
rape
but isn't statutory rape in most states a felony?
Mm-hmm.
And you're classified as a sex offender, and you lose your gun rights?
Yeah,
that's
that would be
It's a
one of
law
them.
that you can't be 3 years older than the chick.
Yeah, I mean that they have specific
When there's
laws.
consent.
Well,
when
no,
there's
it depends on
parental
I thought there was the age of
every
consent or
state
whatever.
is different.
Or the age of legality or whatever.
Every state is different. They have a
Every
certain
state.
number of years that you can be apart. But anyway,
But
that type
they're
of a
real,
person I don't consider to be a risk to society. I think
not for a
that's
violent offense, anyways.
Yeah, that's not a violent offense. It's a technical offense.
okay. Well, I'm just
But
saying
they're
it's-
treated the same. They're
treated like
Oh, yeah.
pedophiles.
I got a really good buddy that wears an ankle bracelet to this day, and he's married with kids and has never done anything weird his whole life, except for date his girlfriend. And that's one of those things that it's got to be sorted out, just like the rest of these laws have to be sorted out.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing here is, you're 16 and she's 15, and you're only a couple months actually in age apart. And the age of consent is 16. Well, then he's committing, statutory rape.
And he could be labeled as a sex offender for the rest
Right.
of his life.
Even though the day before his 16th birthday it was fine.
Yeah, because they'd have been the same age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of our laws are pretty screwy. It's up to us as a society to work it out. The problem is it's gotten so convoluted to try and change anything anymore that people are giving up.
Yeah. And the other argument that I brought up with Cork is, okay, let's take two guys who were busted on felony drug possession. One guy was making methamphetamine in his bathtub, mixing chemicals, almost burning down his house, killing people with the meth, selling it, all that. The other guy, he was growing a couple pot plants that he and his friends liked to smoke. He wasn't actually even selling it to anyone, but because he had X amount in his possession by weight, he's just as bad as a meth dealer.
Right.
That's what's screwed up about some of our laws in some of our states is they're taking two things, like one is really bad and one is not so bad, but they're treating them the same.
I'm very libertarian on that. I think that there shouldn't be any drug laws.
Right?
Make elementary incarcerating people, make it lawful, they'll bring the cost down. People won't
Now,
be criminals.
That's people
And then
that
we'll
use
spend their money on treatment.
the people that use the drugs because they're not harming anybody but themselves. It's really a victimless crime.
Right? But
Now, the
if you
person
make it
that
not-
manufactures
make it
is
not
a different
illegal.
story.
if you make it not illegal, there's only a
And
certain
it's no
amount of
longer a
demand.
violent crime. Yeah.
You don't have to be hiding from the law, so you don't have to be have the criminals don't need guns to protect themselves from law enforcement coming in, because why would they fuck with them? It's no
And we won't
longer
be
an issue.
spending, the billions of dollars that we spend every year on
About
the war on drugs.
The only thing that it would, only reason they would probably still want to have guns or weapons around is if they still did have a decent amount of cash. The other drug dealers might want to steal it from them or whatever, but that's drug dealer against drug dealer, and that doesn't really bother me that much,
Yeah, well, there was a recent story here. It didn't happen, maybe 20 minutes from where I live at the most, driving, and this guy was using the postal system, UPS and FedEx, to get drugs from California mailed over here. And they went on and on about how he had hundreds of rounds of ammunition and how he had, all these firearms in his house. And, the whole story was basically, not that the guy was breaking the law by selling the drugs. I mean, that was the whole thing. But they made the scary point about the firearms, and that's a whole different story. But The guy wasn't going out and, killing people. He was just selling drugs. And I can understand him wanting to have firearms in his house to protect
Drugs are
himself
a
because
death
he had.
sentence.
Yeah, because if he sold meth to my daughter, I might go and put him down.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it wasn't actually. It was marijuana that he was actually having delivered.
I'm just saying, some people may feel that way about marijuana too. I
Yeah,
don't, but some people may.
well, the thing I was getting to is he had over $100,000 in cash in his house. If you had $100,000 of cash in your house, whether you got it legally or illegally, you definitely want to protect yourself. That's kind of the crazy part. And I do want to bring up something that JW66 said. What is the matter with felons? And they put in quotations, never owning a firearm.
I have, maybe because of my Christian faith, but I believe that people can change, and to give them a lifetime sentence for a one-time violation doesn't sit very well with me.
I wouldn't care so much if we only put the people that needed it in jail, but I don't believe the state has got a 100% perfect reputation on that.
Yeah, right. That's the problem, is that it's a system that has to be fixed before you can fix the penalties. I mean,
Right. Now, there was this one woman that here was convicted of selling illegal merchandise that was stolen from one of those craft stores. Can't remember what it was, and was selling the stuff on eBay. And what they got her on was selling stolen items that she bought from somebody else at really, really cheap. But they also got her on tax evasion because she never reported that as an income. You know what her job was besides selling occasionally on eBay? She was taking care of special needs children.
Yeah, but does working with special need kids give her a blanket excuse
No.
to do something illegal to make
No,
money?
it does not. It does not. But I'm saying that she, besides doing this on eBay, and the thing was, she did not realize the items were stolen. That's her side of the story. But she did know she was breaking the law by not doing the income tax. She knew she was breaking the law there. But now she's got to go spend 3 years in federal prison, where she'd actually be a better use to society taking care of these special needs children, because there is very few that want that type of job, that can actually do that type of job.
There's also a comment out there that says, how can you say it's victimless? It's hurting the family, kids, wife, parents, etc. People that are drug addicts, like heroin addicts and meth heads and stuff, don't generally keep kids and family and parents and stuff very long. They usually get cut out of their life pretty quick. And yeah, it hurts, but that's it.
They're going to do it either way, so I don't see that as a valid argument.
Yeah, it's something that happens anyway. I mean...
Yeah, I was just reading that myself.
I guess I might be a little bit biased. My youngest brother's had problems with meth for a lot of his life, but you get past the convictions for being in possession of meth, he hasn't been doing a crime to acquire it or anything like that. And it might be a different story.
Yeah,
he wasn't trying to pay off $18,000 in fines for getting caught with that in his possession.
I have a lot of close experience with it. I've lost 3 immediate family members to meth, and permanently lost 3 of them. And it's no matter what, the person's going to do it. They're going to get into it. There's no, there's no legislating around it. I mean, there's no laws that are going to keep them from doing it. So
no, it's the same
it's already
thing.
a law that says they can't do it.
Yeah, it's the family that keeps them from doing it. It's the people that bring them back, and that's
Yeah, we have we're having a what they quote unquote call a heroin problem in the state, because heroin is now cheap. Because nobody was buying heroin, they were doing meth or whatever before. I can't remember what it was. and they make this big issue, this big
Keep
deal
telling
about,
people heroin's the lowest price it's been in decades. It's the time to buy.
yeah, they make a big deal about how this drug is, evil, but they don't look and blame the people for taking it. They blame the drug itself.
Yeah, like it crawled into the city itself and
Yeah.
just and sold itself to the people.
You're
Forced
walking, it's
itself
like
down their throats.
what is that cactus that if you even come close to it will come out and attack you?
Choya.
Choya. There you go. They're talking like it's a choya cactus. Like if you come anywhere near it, you're going to get have a needle stuck in your arm.
Well, that's what happens. You go to one concert, and if you smell the marijuana smoke in the air, the gateway opens, and the heroin just like dumps itself down your throat while you're sleeping.
Right. It's a person. It's a
It's if
person
you
that
wash
chooses
your
to do
hands
it.
at the concert, that's pure heroin in the water.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was.
That's how they get you.
It's a person that chooses to do this. Now some drugs
look
are worse.
Look at our society. I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah. Some drugs are worse at getting you addicted right away than others.
We have a society. We have a society that finds it easier to blame things on inanimate objects than to hold people responsible for their own actions, i.e., drunk driving deaths.
Yeah,
I blame
I don't
the
believe
internet
in
for that.
addiction. Addiction is a personality disorder, not a substance abuse disorder.
Right.
I'm a firm believer in that. I've seen it too close too many times from too many different people. It's,
I mean, my mom's side of the family has a high incidence of male alcoholics, and I made a life choice early on that I wasn't going to let alcohol be the prime driver for what I do, but it was a choice. I could see how it could be real easy to become, a drunk, but I chose not to. That was my choice.
Yeah, and after experiencing, now I'm forgetting the name of the pain-killing drug they give you in the hospital.
morphine?
Morphine thing. No, morphine.
Hydrocodone?
Thank you. Yeah, going into the hospital for some severe pain, and they decided to give me morphine. Although I was saying that the pain was not that bad, they were saying you're in severe pain. I'm on it's about a 5. Well, I'm gonna give you some morphine, and I can understand why people get addicted to morphine because that stuff makes you feel awesome. But
Right.
have I gone out after experiencing morphine once to going out and going, I got to get myself more morphine? No, it makes me feel awesome, but I don't have that urge. And coming from a family of alcoholics, it's something I choose not to do after going through my youth and deciding that, hey, this is great. But I decided once I got past where it's illegal to be drunk after, under 21 to hitting 21 and realizing that going down this path is not going to be a great choice, I stopped. I still enjoy a beer every once in a great while. Well, actually, once a month. But that's it.
What made it crystal clear to me was watching a very
crazy dude. Heroin's the best price it's been in years.
A very close sibling of mine at one point in their life going through meth withdrawal and shaking and like scratching their face off and all this shit and sweating, and then about 6 months later going through meth withdrawal and not saying a word, not bitching one little bit, not shaking, not sweating, just in total mastery of their mind, and they quit that time, like for good, forever. So like I said, it's one of those things that people want to blame all day long on the actual substance, but once you get the accountability to take care of it for yourself, it's usually a pretty easy thing to kick.
But I think in the end, we're fighting more against the inability for society to hold people accountable for their actions than having a lot of dangerous things available. But I don't see that changing anytime soon either.
Well, and again, let's look at it this way, too. We have plenty of criminals that after they get out, they go and get an illegal gun and go do illegal things. It's not preventing them from doing anything bad.
Well, if you look at it this way, if we had less people incarcerated for drug crimes, the real criminals, we could actually work on programs to get them back into society. like teaching them job skills and how to do finances and that kind of thing, instead of just putting them all in a hole with cable TV and whatever until their magic day comes up and they get released back into society.
Yeah. Well, I also Nathan brought something up that kind of sparked. We were reading a story, and it happened in Chicago. I believe it was Chicago, where a guy had used a firearm to defend himself in his apartment or his home. And I think it was a shotgun, but 100% sure it was a shotgun. It could have been a handgun. It was either a handgun or a shotgun. And he was not supposed to own any firearms. He didn't go and use that firearm to go and rob people and cause problems. He used it to save his life from a home invader, home intruder. But
Actually,
you know,
the story-
he faces worse charges than the person that broke in.
I'm sort of curious, and hold on just a second, Nick. I'm sort of curious how that would have played out if he had a black powder revolver and had done the same thing, because even as a felon, you can have a black powder revolver, and it
Or
wouldn't
a
have been
blunder-
illegal for him to own it.
Or a blunderbuss.
Go ahead, Tony. I just had to get that up.
Yep.
That wasn't. That's the first I've heard of that story. But there's a story I told similar to that where a guy in California was a concert promoter, formerly in prison. I don't know, ran some scam or something, and he basically had, got the money from the concert and locked it in the safe. Well, these guys break in, decide they want the money from the concert. They tie him and his girlfriend up. And one of them's got a gun and one of them's got a machete, and they're talking about how they're going to use the machete to chop them up and dispose of their bodies. Okay, well, as they're trying to get the safe open, he gets a hand loose, and they had set the gun down beside him. He picks it up and shoots both of them. Guess who goes back to prison for possession of a gun?
That's just anal retarded there.
Yep, that's California.
Yeah, well, here's something that this JWM66 brought up. Oh, no, I just lost it. Where did that go? Sorry about
They
that.
said that it might not let people do whatever they want in the warehouse downtown.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, so here's this whole thing. So, with this logic, drugs should be free. Let them do all that they want at some point, and then I keep losing it every time somebody enters something. Let them all do all they want at some warehouse downtown, and they could cut down on crime. Actually, think about it. Did you, at least for me, when something was illegal, it was more fun to do, i.e. drinking in this case for me, because I was under the legal age limit. It was more fun for me to get drunk then. Now, there are a lot of people that take that same point on taking illegal drugs. Because they're illegal, it's fun.
Rush,
Again, they're just going to do it anyway. I mean,
but
No,
there is something that some people get a satisfaction out of doing something they know is wrong. It may not be like mortally wrong, but I don't know. It'd be like a voyeur was, somebody who likes to do sex in public.
yeah,
public
it
areas.
would dissuade certain people from trying it.
There are people who will follow the
Wait,
rules.
you're not supposed to do sex in public?
You're not supposed to get caught doing
Not
sex
supposed to
in
do
public.
it in view, in view of said public.
There are people who will follow
That
the
explains
rules.
a lot of reactions.
Nice.
Yeah, I want to bring this up again. It's doing something. Was I harming anybody by drinking under the age? I wasn't driving. I would drink underage, but was I harming anybody but myself by destroying my own brain cells by drinking underage? Oops, we lost Nathan. Hope it was
You
just
might have hurt your parents' feelings.
Well, it might have hurt my parents' feelings if they ever found out, yes, but they never did.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you might have made them sad. That's all I can think of.
I got in trouble. We had a big ass party, and my parents came home with there was still alcohol evidence in the house, like about 5 trash bags worth of beer cans and whatever. It was a bad deal. I got grounded for like 7 months.
I just read this, and this is kind of interesting. Luger put in here, it varies greatly by state. In Kansas City, firearms rights are automatically restored after 5 years for most felonies, 10 years for serious felonies, and never for violent felonies or those involving a firearm. To be able answer correct on the 4473, you have to have your non-violent felony expunged. So again, you cannot lie in that 4473 by saying that you are not a felon unless you have it expunged. So you cannot buy the firearm through a licensed firearms dealer until you get it expunged anyway. So.
All right, just for shits and giggles, I'm going to read what this particular place put up about our Washington rules. This is about loss of rights based on felonies. So I'm going to skip the civil rights because it's not that big of a deal. So firearms, all privileges lost upon conviction of violent, drug, or sex offenses restored by pardon or by court order after waiting period based on a finding of rehabilitation. So basically after your parole is done. There's the ability to be pardoned by the governor, and then judicial expungement and sealing. All but the most serious offenses may be vacated after a 5 to 10 year waiting period. Most misdemeanors are eligible after 3 to 5 years. The pardon automatically vacates the conviction. Juvenile records may be destroyed. But anyhow, it doesn't have it in here, but I'm almost positive that in the last couple of years we actually passed a state, whatever you want to call it, a RCW or whatever, that says once you're through with your parole, that they must, if you petition, they must give you your rights back. I'm sure there's a few exceptions in there.
This brings up something else too, because you're just bringing that on. Like I think it's on the Wisconsin form. At least it says Wisconsin on the form when they talk about this. If you had committed a crime that would have been imprisoned you for 9 months or more, although it's not a felony, you got to click yes. Well, what if you were convicted at one time of 2 misdemeanors that would have gotten you 12 months in jail instead of 6? That is something I was just curious about. And
sort of a stacking of.
Yeah, because that technically gets you more than 9 months in jail.
Uh-huh.
So that's the weird part, at least for me, on some of the 4473s and the state form, because we got to fill out 2 forms here. That's a Wisconsin thing, but
I'd like somebody to show me a study that shows how many criminals that get released from prison that decide to reoffend are deterred by any laws or rules or other penalties they might face for reoffending with a firearm. It's got to be pretty minor.
There's got to be something out there, but I know that they call the prison the revolving door for a lot of criminals because they lose so many frickin' rights.
I would be interested to see in, like, let's say Chicago, Detroit, some places in New York, how often the firearms charges part of a crime are pled out or dropped in deals.
Yeah, and I misspoke.
So that the criminals don't get a gun offense.
Yeah, I didn't mean you lose. Yeah, I didn't mean to say you lose many rights. You lose so many opportunities once you have that felony of be able to get a decent job, or you tend to sink back into that lifestyle. Because the only way
it can screw up your ability just to rent an apartment.
Luke, are you suggesting that? Wait, you said you were interested in seeing how many felons use a gun after they're released?
How many are deterred by the laws and penalties that they face for reoffending with a gun?
If it actually deters them from getting a gun after they're out.
Right. I'm going to say that it'd probably be less than 2 or 3%, those ones that were bothered enough by being in jail or prison that they aren't willing to go back.
Yeah. Oh, and here's something I was going to before I forget. This is because I was talking about that heroin deal. If you had called 911 saying that you found somebody that had overdosed of heroin, you were also then arrested. Guilty by association.
As you should be.
Yep, for trying to save somebody's life, you're guilty by association. No, if you came home and, as I was going to say, if you came home and found your son on the floor with a needle stuck in his arm and you called 911, you're getting arrested as well. Because you were the one who called 911 for a heroin overdose.
Because you're in a house that has the drug there, even in that situation, they're going to press charges. We got some prosecutors who need to be hung by their balls.
Well, they recently just changed that law. They actually got rid of it.
And there's somebody dying there, you call the police. You should go to jail.
Yep. Guilty by just being there. They'll let you get arrested. I didn't say you get charged, or you get arrested. You go downtown.
You'll pay for your compassion.
You gotta have some discretion there. So, I'll tell a personal experience I had with my brother that uses meth. So he was moving stuff from one place to another, and he borrowed my flatbed trailer, which is parked on one side of my house on a street.
Was it so much meth that you needed a flatbed trailer? That's a lot of meth.
Well, I don't know about that part, but so he's returning the trailer to my house, and he had it hooked up to a Honda Accord, so it was sort of a Mickey Mouse deal. A tandem axle trailer hooked up to the back of a Honda. But anyhow, so one of my neighbors saw him dicking around with the trailer in the car in its parking spot, and he thought that my brother was stealing the trailer. So he called, the neighbor called the police. And in the meantime, my brother had come to get me to help get the trailer off of the car because it was sort of stuck. He couldn't get the connector undone. So I go out there. Then here rolls John Law. Lights us up, hops out, draws a gun. Has us put our hands up. And then while we got our hands up, my brother tries to drop whatever meth he had on him. Almost got himself shot. We both get handcuffed. And then, they start sorting it out. I had to send the one officer to the door of my house to get my wife to bring out my wallet because I didn't have my wallet on me. But I got to sit there in handcuffs while they sort it all out. But I was with my brother. He had drugs, and I didn't get charged because it wasn't my drugs,
Yeah. Well, I was saying, too,
Well, you got to pass on that one.
Yeah, you call 911 for this.
I don't know how it would have affected it, but at that particular point in time, I wasn't concealed carrying, but that would have made it a lot more interesting having to deal with letting the officer know I'm concealed carrying while all that went on, but we'll never know, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you were going downtown, you were being booked. You may not be charged, but you're being booked because that was the law. They changed it. That's something that they just changed, but that was such a crazy ass law, people weren't calling 911 when they found somebody that overdosed on heroin because they were afraid of going to jail for just calling and trying to save somebody's life.
Yeah, that was definitely a stupid law.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, some of the laws they have for, property seizure and stuff. Like if I don't know if they still do it, but it seemed to me there was a couple people that had it happen in Vancouver where they had a rental house. Somebody gets caught with a meth lab in it or whatever, and then they seize it under drug charges and take their house away. I'm like, that's just not right. I mean, if
Right.
you could prove they had knowledge and allowed it to happen, that'd be one thing. But just because you happen to have some douchebag decide to commit a crime in your house, now they're gonna seize your property. That's not gonna fly, you know.
Right, like everything that happens with everybody in your life. You have a general idea, but sometimes people can fool you. Sometimes it's very easy to pull the wool over somebody's eyes, and you never realize that there's a problem. So your mom that lets your son borrow your car, and he's sitting there selling drugs out of it, now the car is seized, and the mom never even knew the kid was doing it.
Yeah. We need a new mantra for our legal system. Legal system. It should be called "Keep It Real."
Right? That's. I mean, you're kind of joking, but you're not. I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Some people are under the mantra, let the court sort it out. Well, that's a dangerous path to walk down as well.
Letting the courts sort it out.
Yep.
That's what got us where we are.
But it's also, not letting the sometimes you're not even letting the cops use their better judgment.
Well, sometimes you get district attorneys that are smart enough to make up for the officer's stupidity.
Sometimes. And sometimes you've got district attorneys that have bug up their ass about certain charges, and they'll do everything in their power to convict those charges, even if the person is innocent.
Yeah, or if they're trying to go for political office or something on the warpath.
Yeah, because what's better than getting your name out there trying to stop illegal use of illegal use of a firearm than, that's going to make all the headlines, even though the person was completely legal in what they were doing.
Yeah.
Because, we are under the mantra that if you own a firearm, in the media's eyes, at the national level, you are evil.
Definitely violent.
I need to check up on that case of that kid in Vancouver that on the 4th of July was carrying the AR by the fireworks stand. I never heard what ended up happening with that case. A lot of publicity up front, not so much on the way out. He was in my mind doing like that other douchebag YouTube channel does, just sort of seeing what he could do to, stir the pot.
Giving gun owners a bad name, in other words.
Yeah. I mean, I open carry, but I don't go looking at go to places with a long arm, intentionally trying to get attention and get a police response, which is basically what he was doing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Gets me almost as irritated as the guys that argue with the cops alongside the road.
Well, that was just asking how much more of this we're going to do, and I'm not exactly sure how long we've been running.
Never went.
Pretty close to an hour on this topic, and I think we're running out of steam here because I think we've talked about it enough. So I'm going to go. Well, I was just going to say, I was going to go ahead. Anybody got anything last things to add here?
Nope, just go check out gunchannels.com.
Yep, gunchannels.com. That's where we read all the comments during these chats. We completely ignore the YouTube side. At least I do.
There's hardly anybody on YouTube anymore. The last time I checked during a hangout, there was 2 people in the YouTube chat talking to themselves.
Yep, I normally turn the comments off on YouTube just so I don't have to go back there and handle the idiots that just want to join a chat to or make stupid comments or say. Yeah, we are down on viewers, and I was just going to say the exact same thing. Gee, whoops.
Can we monitor how many viewers there are now?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. It used to be only the person
Oh,
hosting.
everybody can do it now. They put if you click on somebody's video, and it'll just tell you how many viewers there are now at the bottom. It's kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it is very cool. So I
It's like
want to
Potluck.
thank everybody that came out and watched tonight, and also the panelists for helping out. We'll continue this over in the lobby chat on Gun Channels. If you want to watch some more, you're gonna have to go over to gunchannels.com to find us. All the viewers out there that aren't already members over there are interested in watching us talk more. Thanks for everybody for tuning in.